Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're literally stepping into the shoes of a medical detective. We're going to unpack the incredibly rigorous, honestly fascinating methodology behind clinical homeopathy, and we're drawing straight from the foundational curriculum of the Organon of Medicine. I want you to imagine, just for a second, that diagnosing and treating a complex illness is exactly like an active crime scene investigation. As a clinician, you've got to survey the scene, meticulously gather your evidence, and then hunt down that exact remedy match.
But, of course, here's the ultimate challenge, right? How do you actually separate the vital, case-breaking clues from all the background noise? I mean, if you've ever tried to unravel a complex case, you know the noise is deafening. In medicine, common disease symptoms, a cough when you have a cold, or a fever during an infection, those are just background noise. They're totally expected. The real detective work? That lies in tracking down those highly peculiar, unique fingerprints that belong solely and exclusively to the individual patient sitting right in front of you.
So, to figure out exactly how this investigation unfolds, we're going to follow a really clear roadmap today. Number 1, the chain of evidence. 2, finding characteristic clues. 3, solving complex cases. 4, tracking the outcome. And finally, number 5, the safety override.
All right, starting off with Section 1, the chain of evidence, from proving to prescription.
Okay, let's dive straight into this absolutely core concept, drug proving. This is ground zero. It's where all homeopathic knowledge generation begins. Because think about it, before you can ever match a medicine to a patient, you desperately need a pure, trustworthy picture of what that medicine actually does. And how do we get that? Through healthy human trials. By giving a substance to a comparatively healthy human observer, you can record the exact, specific changes it produces, completely free from the muddy interference of some pre-existing disease. What you're left with is a pure pathogenetic symptom picture. We're talking raw, verbatim data with zero theoretical speculation.
And you can really see how this builds into an unbroken methodological chain of custody. Step 1, you observe those medicine effects in healthy subjects. Step 2, you compile that pristine data to construct the materia medica, which is essentially your reference library of remedies. Step 3, you examine your sick patient. And then Step 4, the grand finale, you compare the characteristic patterns of the patient to those remedies. Your final clinical decision relies entirely on the integrity of this chain. As the curriculum strictly points out, and this is so important, weak observations simply cannot support strong clinical conclusions, period.
Moving on to Section 2, finding characteristic clues, separating the signal from the noise. Now, let's look at this fascinating contrast between common and characteristic symptoms. If you look at aphorism 153 of the Organon, this is really the crux of the whole methodology. Common disease symptoms, say joint stiffness if a patient has osteoarthritis, well, those have super high diagnostic priority. They tell you exactly what the pathology is. But they have literally zero value when it comes to individualizing the remedy. Why? Because practically everyone with arthritis has stiff joints. The characteristic symptoms, on the other hand, those are your unique fingerprints. For instance, what if that joint pain is terrible on initial motion, but noticeably better from continuous walking? Boom! That is highly differentiating. And that brilliantly brings us to what we mean by these striking and peculiar clues, which we call modalities. These are the details that make you go, wait, really? You'd logically expect a burning pain to feel better with something cold, right? But what if a patient has a burning pain that is actually relieved by putting a hot pack on it? That is a massive singular clue. Or maybe a patient with a sky-high fever who doesn't want to drink a drop of water. Or a migraine that only goes away if they use cold applications while lying in a pitch-black room. These are the highly individual, quirky clues that help you filter out the noise, differentiate your candidate remedies, and lock in on that precise match, the similimum. Okay, Section 3, solving complex cases, navigating clinical plot twists. Let's be real for a second. Everyday practice is rarely a perfect textbook picture. You've got to know how to navigate the clinical plot twists. Here are the standard operating procedures for 3 major curveballs. First up, the partial simillimum. Think of this like a jigsaw puzzle where a few pieces are missing. It's an incomplete match, so it only relieves some of the symptoms. Don't force it. The SOP here is to just allow the action to complete itself and then retake the altered case fresh. Second, one-sided diseases. This is incredibly tricky. It's when a single, massive symptom completely hogs the spotlight and obscures the rest of the picture. You have to actively hunt for hidden features across other domains, like sleep patterns or temperature preferences. And finally, mental diseases. This is where an altered disposition entirely dominates the physical stuff. The absolute first priority? rule out organic causes, things like delirium or encephalitis, and then execute a proper, structured mental state examination. Which brings us to Section 4, tracking the outcome, interrogating the results.
Once you've set a treatment plan in motion, every single follow-up demands really structured inquiry. You can't just wing it. You need to systematically ask yourself 4 key questions. Number 1, what specifically changed? Number 2, in which domain and in what direction did it change? Number 3, and honestly, this is your absolute best defense against your own confirmation bias, could another factor explain it? Did they radically change their diet? Did they start a new medication? And number 4, based on all of that data, what action is the safest and most defensible thing to do right now? Do we wait? Do we repeat the dose? Or do we refer them out?
To give you an idea of what we're looking for, a classic, ideal, curative response, which is often called Kent's Observation 3, follows a really specific timeline. Check this out. Notice how at T1, you might actually see a very short, mild aggravation of the presenting symptoms. It seems counterintuitive, but it's crucial because it's quickly followed by T2, a sustained long-term improvement, not just in local symptoms, but in broader systemic functions like mobility and sleep. And by T3, their overall energy and vitality are fully restored. That kind of trajectory tells you for sure that the remedy action was deeply constitutional, not just some superficial masking.
Finally, Section 5, the safety override, calling for backup. We have to return to this vital concept for a moment. The quality of the prescription can never exceed the quality of the observations behind it. And being a careful, elite observer also means knowing exactly, and I mean exactly, when a case exceeds the scope of routine care. Philosophical methodology is great, but it must always operate within incredibly rigorous ethical, legal, and biomedical boundaries. So when specific red flags pop up, they require mandatory, immediate emergency hospital transfer. No exceptions. We're talking about acute cardiovascular signs, crushing chest pain, severe hypoxia. We're talking active psychiatric red flags like command hallucinations or an active suicide plan that demands a secure environment. Any suspected progressive lesions or malignancies where they absolutely need a tissue biopsy. And tropical infectious red flags, so if someone shows up with a cyclical fever and jaundice right after hiking through the jungles of Sabah, they need immediate blood films for malaria and hardcore infectious disease care. Let me be crystal clear here. Biomedical safety always overrides theoretical concepts. Always. If a patient is showing objective clinical decline, their oxygen levels are dropping, their vitals are completely unstable, or they have severe hypertension, that takes absolute priority over any theoretical waiting for an expected direction of cure. Objective deterioration completely invalidates all the philosophical models. It mandates an immediate safety override.
Which really leaves us with this final, profound thought to ponder. How do expert clinicians pull off this balancing act? How do they pursue that incredibly unique, holistic similimum while simultaneously honoring the absolute non-negotiable boundaries of biomedical safety? Because it's a massive tightrope walk. It demands immense observational skill and a totally seamless integration of traditional methodology with modern clinical governance. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this deep dive gave you a much clearer picture of the meticulous, sometimes gritty detective work that happens behind the scenes of case analysis. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.